While repairing the broken tile in the kitchen at midnight, after spending the entire day assembling furniture at her sister's apartment, I heard my wife tell her sister on speakerphone, "He thinks fixing things makes him a man. He's just a maintenance worker I never pay." Her sister replied, "At least you don't have to tip him, LOL." I sat there, covered in cement dust, hands cracking. I finished the job. 4 days later, she regretted everything she said. So some background, me, 37M, and Elaine, 33F, have been married for 7 years. No kids, just a mortgage on a decent starter home in a developing neighborhood. Translation, the only place we could afford. I've always been good with my hands. Growing up, my dad taught me everything about fixing stuff. Plumbing, electrical, carpentry, you name it. These skills have saved us thousands over the years. The thing is, I've always taken pride in being able to handle whatever breaks around the house. Our fridge makes a weird noise. Fixed. Toilet won't stop running. Handled. Deck needs rebuilding. Done in a weekend. I'm not bragging. It's just IDK. It feels good to solve problems, you know? Fast forward to last Saturday. Elaine's sister, Amber, 31F, just moved into this overpriced apartment across town. Amber calls Friday night begging for help because her delivery of flat pack furniture arrived and she just can't even with the instructions. Elaine volunteered me immediately. Didn't even ask if I had plans. So I spend my entire Saturday at Amber's place. We're talking 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. straight assembly hell. 2 bookshelves, a TV stand, dining table with 6 chairs, and the boss level, a bed frame with storage drawer. If you've ever battled those instruction sheets with a little stick figure, dude, you know the pain. All day, I'm catching these little looks between Elaine and Amber. The way they giggle when I can't find the right Allen wrench. The whispered comments I can't quite hear. Whatever, I figured they were just being sisters. I get home absolutely wrecked. My back feels like someone took a baseball bat to it. My fingers are raw from tightening those tiny screws. All I want is a shower and sleep. But when I walk into the kitchen, Elaine points to a broken floor tile near the sink. It's been wobbling for days. Can you fix it before someone trips? And because I'm an idiot who can't say no, I find myself on my hands and knees at midnight scraping out grout while Elaine watches some reality show in the living room. The tile was completely loose. Water had gotten underneath, and the subfloor felt soft. This wasn't a quick fix. This was pull up the tile, dry out the area, cut a patch for the subfloor, wait for the adhesive to set, then replace the tile. I'm covered in cement dust. My hands are literally cracking and bleeding from all the work that day, and I'm forcing myself to stay awake because water damage is no joke. That's when I hear Elaine's phone ring. She puts it on speaker. Why do people do this? And it's Amber. First, they talk about some drama with Amber's coworker. Then Amber asks how the furniture is holding up. Then she asks if the handyman, meaning me, is still working. What Elaine says next literally made me freeze with the trowel mid-scrape. Elaine tells Amber I'm still fixing the kitchen tile. She says, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is damn close, he thinks fixing things makes him a man. He's just a maintenance worker I never pay. And Amber, who I just spent my entire Saturday helping, replies with, "At least you don't have to tip him, LOL." They both laughed. Not like a small chuckle, like full-on cackling. I sat there, covered in dust, hands literally bleeding, at midnight, after spending 11 hours helping her ungrateful sister. And they're laughing about me being their unpaid handyman. For a second, I thought about storming in there, throwing the trowel across the room, the whole dramatic scene. But something in me just went cold instead. I didn't say a word. I kept working. Finished the damn tile. Made it perfect, actually. As I cleaned up, memories started flooding back. How Elaine introduces me to her work friends without mentioning any of my skills or hobbies. How she calls her dad for advice whenever I start a big project, even though her dad can barely change a light bulb. How she shows off the renovated bathroom to her friends without mentioning I did it all myself, saving us at least $5K. I crawled into bed around 2 a.m. Elaine was asleep, or pretending to be. I laid there staring at the ceiling fan I installed last summer, thinking about all the times she's called me her handyman to friends. I always thought it was affectionate. Now I realized it was diminishing. The thing is, what broke wasn't just the tile. It was whatever made me think my contributions to our home were valued. The next morning, I was different, quiet. Elaine didn't notice. I spent Sunday making a mental inventory of every major repair, renovation, and improvement I've made to our house over the past 7 years. The kitchen backsplash that took me 3 weekends, the deck I rebuilt after we discovered rot, the bathroom I completely gutted and renovated when we found mold, the custom shelving in her office that her WFH colleagues always compliment on Zoom calls. By Monday morning, I had a plan. Not the rage-filled kind where you smash their stuff or change the locks. Something colder, more calculated. If I'm just an unpaid maintenance work, then maybe it's time to go on strike. I went to the bank on my lunch break and opened a new account. Just for option. That night, Elaine complained about the weird noise the dishwasher was. I just nodded and said, huh, weird, and kept scrolling on my phone. She looked at me expectantly. Aren't you going to check it? She finally asked. I shrugged. Maybe tomorrow. I'm pretty tired. The confusion on her face was just the beginning. I spent the next 3 days doing absolutely nothing around the house. No little fixes, no response to her honeydew comments, nothing. On day 4, the dishwasher stopped working completely. Water all over the floor. Elaine texted me at work, freaking out. That's when I replied with the 5 words that started everything. Maybe call a maintenance worker. She had no idea what was coming. Neither did I, honestly. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done being the unappreciated handyman in my own marriage. Update. Holy shit, guys. The response to my last post was insane. Thanks for all the awards and DMs. Some of you have been asking for an update, so here it is. Buckle up because this gets wild. Look, I've never considered myself a petty person, but something broke inside me that night with the tile. It wasn't just what Elaine said. It was the years of being taken for granted, suddenly crystallizing in that one moment. That text I sent her about calling a maintenance worker. That was just the beginning. The dishwasher situation was honestly perfect timing. Water everywhere, that distinctive electrical burning smell, the whole 9 yards. Normally, I'd be on my back pulling the thing out, checking the drain line, testing the motor. But this time, I just stepped over the puddle, grabbed a beer, and sat on the couch. Elaine kept giving me these incredulous looks. She finally asked if I was going to fix it. I just shrugged and said something about being tired from work. The confusion on her face was satisfying in a way I'm not proud of. After 7 years of marriage, the one time I don't jump up to fix something, she looks at me like I've grown a second head. The thing is, I needed to be strategic. This wasn't about throwing a tantrum. It was about showing her exactly what my contributions were worth. So I made a plan. Step 1. Financial separation. The day after the dishwasher flood, I opened my own account and set up direct deposit for my paychecks. I left enough in our joint account to cover my half of the mortgage and bills, but nothing extra. No emergency fund, no repair budget. Step 2. Complete maintenance withdrawal. Everything in our house that needed attention was suddenly Elaine's problem. Leaky faucet? Not my problem. Weird noise from the HVAC? Someone else's job now. Loose cabinet hinge? Good luck with that. Step 3. Document everything. I started keeping a log of every repair request and what it would have cost to hire someone. This was going to be important later. The first week was pretty low-key. Elaine kept asking when I was going to look at the dishwasher. I kept giving vague non-answers. Finally, she called a repair guy. The look on her face when he quoted $375 just for the service call? Priceless. Then he explained the control board was fried. Another 400 plus labor. She actually called her dad to ask if he could fix it. Her dad, who once electrocuted himself trying to change a light switch. I nearly laughed out loud. Meanwhile, I was spending my evenings reconnecting with my old buddy Joel. We used to work together before I started at my current place. Joel's been asking me for years to come work with him, and suddenly I was interested. The pay would be about the same, but the hours would be different. Longer days, but more flexibility. More importantly, it would keep me out of the house. Around day 10 of my strike, the washing machine decided to join the rebellion. It started making this horrific grinding noise during the spin cycle. Elaine looked at me expectantly. I just put in my earbuds. 2 days later, I came home to find a repair van in our driveway. The washing machine needed a new transmission. $800. Elaine was fuming. I could tell she wanted to say something, but what could she say? Why aren't you fixing our stuff for free anymore? That weekend was Elaine's parents' anniversary dinner. The whole family was there, including Amber. Halfway through dinner, Amber asked how our home improvements were going. The way she smirked when she said it made my blood boil. I just shrugged and said we were taking a break from projects. Then Elaine's mom mentioned something about their garbage disposal acting up. Before I could even think, Elaine jumped in with, Wyatt could take a look at it. Like everything was normal, I looked her dead in the eyes and said I don't do free maintenance work anymore. The table went silent. Elaine's face went through about 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Amber nearly choked on her wine. The drive home was tense. Elaine finally broke the silence by asking what my problem was lately. I just told her I was tired of being the unappreciated handyman. She tried to argue that she does appreciate me, but I just turned up the radio. Week 3 is when things really started falling apart. Literally. Our AC went out during a heat wave, 97 degrees outside, and our house felt like a sauna. Normally, I'd have checked the capacitor or refrigerant levels. Instead, I just grabbed some clothes and told Elaine I was staying at Joel's until it was fixed. The repair bill? $1,400. By this point, I was spending most evenings with Joel, learning about his business and how I could fit in. I'd come home late, sleep in the guest room, claiming the master was too hot without proper AC, and leave early. Elaine and I were basically roommates. The breaking point came when the garage door opener died. It wasn't just that it stopped working, it failed while the door was halfway open, making it impossible to close manually without taking the whole mechanism apart. Elaine texted me at work with this urgent problem. I replied with a link to a repair service. That night, I came home to find Elaine sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of repair bills and a calculator. Her eyes were red. The total came to just over $3,000 in 3 weeks. She looked up at me and asked in this small voice what was happening to us. For a second, I almost broke, but then I remembered her laugh while I was bleeding on our kitchen floor. I sat down and told her I had accepted a position with Joel. Different hours, same pay, but I'd be happier. She asked if this was about the repairs, why I suddenly stopped fixing things. I just shrugged and said maybe she should call a maintenance worker. They're basically the same as me, right? The color drained from her face. That's when I knew she remembered what she'd said. Before she could respond, I dropped the final bomb. I had made an appointment with a real estate agent to discuss what the house would be worth if we sold it. After all, I put in so much sweat equity with all my unpaid maintenance and renovation. That's when she broke down completely. Between sobs, she admitted she remembered what she'd said to Amber that night. She swore she didn't mean it, that she was just trying to sound cool to her sister. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then she said something that caught me completely off guard. She asked how much I thought all my work around the house was worth, like an actual dollar amount. That's when I realized I had been waiting for exactly this question. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, and slid it across the table to her. 7 years of repairs, renovations, and maintenance, itemized, with market rates for each job. The total at the bottom made her eyes go wide. $37,462. Final update. All right, Reddit. Final update time. This blew up way bigger than I expected. RIP my inbox. The awards and DMs have been insane. Thanks for all the support and advice, even the harsh stuff. Some of you called me petty, others called me a hero. The truth is somewhere in between. So when we left off, I'd just shown Elaine the spreadsheet with the grand total of all my unpaid labor. $37,462. Look, I expected shock, maybe tears. What I didn't expect was for her to laugh. That's right, she laughed. A weird, nervous laugh, like she thought this was some elaborate joke. She picked up my phone, scrolled through the list, and asked if I was serious. When I didn't crack a smile, her face changed. The realization that I'd been tracking everything, from the 30-minute faucet fix to the 3-weekend bathroom remodel, hit her like a truck. She tried to play it off, saying we're married. We both contribute in different ways. I asked her to name 5 significant things she'd done for the house in the past year. The silence was deafening. Then came the million-dollar question. Why was I doing this now? That's when I finally told her that I heard every word of her conversation with Amber that night while I was fixing the tile. How she called me just a maintenance worker she never pays. How they both laughed about not needing to tip me. The color drained from her face. For a second, I thought she might deny it or claim I misheard. Instead, she just whispered, "Oh God," and covered her mouth. The thing is, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just done. Done with being taken for granted. Done with being the background utility that kept her life running smoothly without recognition. I laid it all out. How for 7 years I'd been saving us thousands while she treated my skills like they were worthless. How her sister exploited my labor without a simple thank you. How she'd diminish me to her friends, making DIY projects sound like my cute little hobby instead of valuable work. What happened next surprised me. Instead of more excuses, Elaine actually listened. Then she started crying. Not the manipulative kind, but the ugly, messy crying that happens when someone realizes they've royally fucked up. Between sobs, she admitted everything. How she'd gotten so comfortable with me handling everything that she stopped seeing it as work. How she'd joke about it with Amber because Amber was always competitive about relationships and putting me down somehow made her feel like she was winning. How she never stopped to calculate what all this free labor was actually worth. I wasn't budging, though. I told her I'd already started the process with Joel, that I was considering my options regarding our house, and that's when she asked for time. Not to fix us, she wasn't that naive, but to prove she understood what she'd done wrong. I agreed to 2 weeks before making any permanent decision. The next day, I moved into Joel's spare room temporarily. I needed space to think without leaky faucets and broken appliances clouding my judgment. What happened during those 2 weeks was unexpected. First, Elaine texted Amber about what had happened. Apparently, Amber tried to play it off as just sisters talking. and suggested Elaine was overreacting. This backfired spectacularly when Elaine screenshot the conversation and sent it to their entire family group chat, including their parents, explaining exactly what they'd said about me while I was bleeding and fixing their homes. The family fallout was nuclear. Their mom called me personally to apologize. Their dad, who I mentioned before can barely change a light bulb, was furious that Amber had exploited me for free labor, then mocked me behind my back. Amber showed up at Joel's place 3 days later. She was crying on his doorstep, begging to talk to me. I almost didn't, but curiosity got the best of me. The conversation was basically Amber having a complete meltdown. Turns out, after the family found out what she'd done, her parents refused to help her with the down payment on her new car. They told her maybe she should learn to fix her own stuff instead of mocking people who actually have useful skills. Even better, the guy she'd been dating, who works in construction, ghosted her after hearing how she talks about handymen. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy watching her squirm, but I also felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. I told her I accepted her apology, but needed time. Meanwhile, Elaine was having her own reality check. She texted me daily updates about things breaking in the house, not asking for help, just documenting her attempts to fix them herself. Some of these texts were actually hilarious. Tried to fix garbage disposal. YouTube made it look easy. Currently fishing spoon out with coat hanger. Replaced shower head. Only flooded bathroom twice. Watched 4 tutorials on unclogging drains. Used half bottle of drain cleaner. Hair monster still winning. She was trying. Actually trying. Not just calling repair services, but attempting to learn the basics. Week 2, she sent me a spreadsheet of her own. She'd gone through our photos from the past 7 years and documented every project I'd completed. Next to each one, she'd gotten actual quotes from local contractors. Her total? $43,217. My estimate had been low. At the bottom of her spreadsheet was a note. I can never repay you for all this, but I can start recognizing its value. Attached was a receipt for a local workshop on basic home repairs. She'd signed up for a 6-week course. When the 2 weeks were up, I went home to talk. The house was different. She'd rearranged the living room to showcase the built-in shelves I'd made. She'd framed before-after photos of the bathroom renovation and hung them in the hallway. It was weird but touching. We sat at the kitchen table, right next to the tile I'd fixed that night, and had the most honest conversation of our marriage. No yelling, no crying, just truth. She admitted she'd gotten comfortable with the dynamic where she pointed at problems and they magically disappeared. That she'd started seeing me as a household appliance rather than a partner with valuable skills. That hanging out with Amber brought out her worst tendencies to be dismissive of blue-collar work. I admitted that I should have spoken up years ago instead of letting resentment build. That I'd gotten validation from being the fix-it guy until it became expected rather than appreciated. That I was afraid if I wasn't useful, I wasn't valuable. We agreed on some changes. I'd teach her basic maintenance so she understood what goes into it. For bigger projects, we'd split the cost of hiring. Help. My work with Joel would continue. I needed that independence. She'd stop downplaying my contributions to friends and family. We'd try couples therapy to fix our communication. Are we magically fixed? Hell no. Trust is like a house foundation. Once it cracks, the repair is never as strong as the original pour. But we're trying. Last weekend, the kitchen sink clogged. Instead of automatically grabbing tools, I asked Elaine what she wanted to do. She suggested we try to fix it together. I showed her how to use a pipe wrench, and she didn't complain once about the disgusting gunk we pulled from the trap. Small steps. As for Amber, she's still in the doghouse with the entire family. She texted last week asking if I could look at her broken TV mount. I replied with a link to TaskRabbit and a suggestion to tip well. The biggest change? Yesterday, I came home to find Elaine had installed a ceiling fan in the guest room by herself. It was slightly crooked and the pull chains were uneven, but it worked. She was so damn proud standing there with her YouTube tutorial still playing on her phone. I didn't have the heart to fix it. Some things are perfect in their imperfection. So that's it, Reddit. No dramatic divorce, no epic revenge finale. Just 2 flawed people trying to rebuild something that almost collapsed. Like any good renovation, it's messy, expensive, and takes longer than you think. But the foundation might be stronger in the end.